How many head gaskets you gone through? Got a rod knock? Engine blow up yet? How many times you gotta pull that thing? Why'd you buy a Subaru? Well, today I'm gonna be answering all your frickin' questions. Nah. We gotta love all the good Subaru questions from the non-Subaru people. All them Corvette guys, your Mustang guys, your strictly Evo boys. You know how it goes. I get the comment all the time about head gaskets. I don't give a shit. I haven't replaced a single head gasket for the reason of a head gasket failure on a Subaru. Fun fact, I did it on my damn Duramax because a head gasket blew. Haven't had to do it on the Subaru. Is it because I run fire rings? Maybe. But every head gasket I replaced is because I was down that far and I replaced it anyways. But in today's video, I want to answer some common questions I get on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, Kick, wherever I'm getting these questions about the car, about the engine, about how to build the engine, about everything that a car guy gets, I guess. So I like these sit-down videos because it's really echoing here right now, and I don't know why, so I apologize for that. But I like these sit-down videos because, one, it doesn't cost me any money. I don't have to, spend a bunch of money for parts on the car. And also, if I feel like I'm helping you guys rather than helping myself work on the car, I know sometimes that correlates, but I feel like I'm rather talking to you guys rather than just the lens of the camera, and maybe I can help you guys build your dream car. One of the most common questions I get is people just asking where to start on their build. As a Subaru in general, what are you looking for? You're looking for power, you're looking for reliability, you're looking for comfort, you're looking for exterior looks, how the car performs. There's a lot of different things you can do with these cars. With this car, I think I kind of just started working all over the car. Some people want to get the exterior done first, some people want to do the build first, some people only do the build, some people only do the exterior. It's whatever floats your boat, whatever your end goal is where you're going. I think the most important mods to put on these cars, coilovers. I think that's my number one. I teamed up with Cygnus Performance. We put Cygnus X1 coilovers on this car, and they've been absolutely fantastic. Completely changes the way the car drives. The overall handling of the car just went to the moon over stock suspension. Taking turns, especially at speed, you're not getting that lean anymore. It holds super tight, and the car just absolutely rips it. I love how this car drives. Something that I've always said with all the cars that I've owned, nothing compares to the Audis that I used to have. They handled amazing, the all-wheel drive system was amazing, and there was just nothing that really came close to it. Adding coilovers to these all-wheel drive STIs, all STIs are all-wheel drive, just putting that into perspective from the Audi world. I think it handles really, really close to the Audis. If not, maybe even a little better. The thing handles like it's on rails, and even taking corners at 100 plus, it's pretty good. Now I will say with coilovers, you get a lot of questions as well. Don't cheap out on your coilovers. A lot of the cheap coilovers, they're gonna perform even worse than the stock suspension. They're gonna break, you're gonna end up having to buy new ones in the future, you're just not gonna like them. So stick to a decent coilover set. Like I said, I went with Cygnus, absolutely love them. I do have a discount code, Brandon100. It'll save you $100 off your order at checkout. So yeah, be sure to reach out to Jeff Cygnus. He is absolutely amazing, best customer service. But aside from coilovers, let's talk about a little bit under the hood. An AOS is really, really good for these cars. Increases the longevity of it. Before having an AOS, you'd pull your intercooler or pull your turbo, you'd have a bunch of oil in it. After having the AOS, every time I've done that, there hasn't really been any oil in there at all, which is a really, really good thing. So definitely suggest AOS. They have a lot of benefits for the cars. Aside from that, you can, for people just starting off with their builds, you can definitely start with an intake, a downpipe. I think that's the direction a lot of people go. You can get an access port and start tuning the car. With the whole green speed thing, I know it is a little bit different. As far as running flex fuel, you can't run and tap into the TGVs anymore. But I believe Cobb did just come out with a Green Speed Flex Fuel kit. I'm not exactly sure how it works. I haven't really done my research yet, but I will probably be putting that into a future build and testing it out. Also with downpipes, I think you can run catted, but you can't run catless. You can't get tuned for a catless downpipe, I think. That's how it works now. But there obviously are ECU options, Haltech, Motec. Once you kind of get those in there and you're looking to make it a little bit more power, you can definitely start doing turbo. So I know a lot of people do like an FP green, FP blue, or FP black even. FP black is definitely starting to push it on a stock block. We've seen people push some insane power on a stock block, but it is pushing it. There is a timeline, and I can almost promise you it won't last forever. Or at that point, you know, start saving up the money to replace internals if it does indeed decide it wants to blow up one day. So now you got your turbo, you got your intake, you got your intercooler, you got your downpipe. Kinda, you know, getting to that point where the last thing you gotta do is fuel. So you can put bigger injectors in there. You know, the stock fuel lines on these cars are actually plenty capable of hauling fuel to the front. I do run a Dash 8 feed and a Dash 6 return on this, some big boy AN lines. But like I said, stock lines are honestly fine, especially for probably anything under 600-700 wheel. I don't think you'd have an issue, but I'm not a tuner, and that's just, you know, what I think. That's what I've heard. But I do run bigger fuel lines, and it does obviously help with fuel delivery. Eventually everything starts to come together. You have all your supporting mods to make that power. Fuel, air, and spark. That's what makes up these cars. Every gas powered car is pretty much the same. And the more air, the more fuel you throw at it, the more power you're gonna make. So, but let's talk about motors. I get countless questions. How did I learn how to build it? What do I need to build it? How much is it gonna cost? You name it, I've gotten the question before. Let me explain kind of what I did with this one, and if you want to follow the same route, you can certainly do that. So I took a trip out to Seattle and ended up buying a used short block. I think it actually had 3 cylinders and 3 rods in it. Came out of an STI, it was an EJ257, looked like it sat outside for a while. I took that block, I sent it out to Outfront to get closed deck service because I knew with this car I just wanted to make the jam, and closed deck was the only way to have a somewhat reliable and longer lasting build for the power level I was going for. So sent that out to Outfront, got it closed deck, somewhere around $2 grand-ish. Essentially what that does is it takes your short block and they put billet inserts into a lot of like the big holes around the cylinders. And what that does is it reinforces it so it becomes a little bit stronger, especially when you're revving these things out and they get really, really hot and it expands. If you don't have that support there, it can obviously expand and create a failure in, well, where you're in your cylinder wall essentially. So you want to make sure that you have as strong as a block as possible to handle the amount of power you're going for. So I got that block back and I built it up with Manley rods and pistons, OEM nitrided crankshaft, pretty much basic there, ACL bearings. Now, this was something completely new to me, and I'd recommend it to anyone who wants to kind of take the chance, but also learn something new. And, it's honestly the best feeling when you get to start up your motor and the thing's running and all is good. Nothing really beats it. I'm so proud of this car and what I've kind of learned just from its trial and error, really. I get a lot of questions saying, how did I learn how to do that? YouTube videos. Shout out to Josh Bader, Devin Niemola, Smedia, Tanner Smith. They've all been fantastic. I've watched all 3 of them for a long freaking time and learned a lot. This short block build in this car is essentially the same thing that Josh uses for his stage 4 block. He had a video up of him building a block for Travis. If you guys watch Bader's channel, you probably know Travis as well. I pretty much watched that video probably 50 times, and he does a time lapse through the video. So I slowed the video down to really focus on what he was doing, and I literally just used that to build this car. I took the part numbers off of everything he was putting into it. The only thing he doesn't show is clearances and and that's just from a business aspect. You know, he's building these cars to his own clearances that he set, and he doesn't want to release that stuff. You know, that's the money maker. That's how he makes. He's obviously spent a lot of time perfecting that, and you know, respect to him. I wouldn't release it either if my business was built around it. So watch YouTube videos, do some research, figure out how the heck you're gonna do this, and then just send it. That's my best advice. If you have issues, you're always gonna run into issues. Luckily, there are forums, there are YouTube videos to work through those issues. I ran into quite a few with this thing. Luckily, the short block build itself is pretty smooth. I watched enough videos to figure out how to not mess that one up. The thing I struggle with most on these freaking cars is pulling the motor off the bell housing and putting it back on. I don't know why. It's either really easy or really hard. That's the biggest fight you'll probably go through. So now in this car, I did kind of build it to be more dailyable. So we run H-Tough rods in this car, which is a little bit different than a normal H-beam. They're a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger. They are actually a really strong rod. Now, compared to an I-beam, they are lighter. Being that I kind of built this car to be more dailyable, I wanted a little bit lighter of a rod. And then we run upgraded wrist pins as well. Now, those are really good, especially when you're starting to run pump gas. Luckily, I do have flex fuel here, so we run this car on E. But if you are running on pump gas, it's a very hard fuel on the car. So the upgraded wrist pin adds a little bit of thickness, and it kind of just helps with the hard detonations that pump gas creates. So that's why we run those, just in case I do have to run this car on pump gas, which it's tuned on both. It is flex, and I'm sure we'll have to run it on pump gas eventually, especially if we do like long road trips or anything like that. That's when we'll need it. Moving on, that's pretty much a short block. Moving on to head gaskets. What head gaskets are you gonna run? Like I showed in the beginning, you don't wanna run stock head gaskets when you're pushing 45 pounds boost. In this car, I run the Athena head gaskets with the Cooper fire rings in there, and I haven't had an issue. They are really good head gaskets when it comes to making a lot of power. Now, with the Cooper rings, obviously they're grooved, so when you torque your heads down onto them, it does cut into the head. So obviously every time you do blow up or something does happen, it's gonna be more catastrophic than if you're running like a JE Pro Seal or something like that. I run those, if you're kind of in that 500 horsepower range, I think JE Pro Seals are a fantastic gasket. I run them on Rusty now. I had a set laying around, so I slapped them in there. But, I mean, I think Josh said that he runs OEM head gaskets like on up to like 500 wheel and doesn't really have issues. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure I did hear about that. We also run 1/2-inch head studs on this build, so that's something that Outfront did. Mill out the block to handle 1/2-inch head studs, and then your machine shop can mill out your heads to handle the 1/2-inch head studs. Essentially just adding more support, being able to torque the heads down a little bit harder. I believe these are torqued to, it's like 120 foot-pounds. Might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less. I can't remember. But either way, we can definitely torque them down a lot more than your typical 11mm head studs. So that's why we run those. Now moving on to the heads, same thing. The more you build it, the better off you're gonna be. So we run BC 280 cams, stage 3 cams, and a full GSC valvetrain. Now the heads are port and polished. Something we did just because the more airflow you can get, the better off you're gonna be. Kind of went all out on this build. You don't have to. If you guys plan on doing like an IAG block, an Outfront block, whatever you plan on doing, as long as you do your research, plan to build it to handle the power you're going for. Obviously, this block is rated for around 700 Mustang, and we're pushing a little bit over that. So it's a little bit past its reliability point, I guess you could call it. Anything at this power level, guys, it's not gonna be reliable. It's just not. When you have a problem, it can be a really big problem really fast. And that's kind of the risk we kind of take. We want to go fast and something can happen. That's the way it goes. Short and sweet. So we're asking a lot out of a 4-cylinder engine, but but it's what we love to do. We're willing to take the risk, and if you guys want to have the fun that we're having, frickin' send it, because this car is so fun to drive. Every time I get in it, as scary as it is, not only because of how fast it is, but just because I don't want anything to happen to the car. I absolutely love it. I have a blast every time I drive the car, and I don't think I'll ever sell it, if I'm being honest with you guys. This one's gonna be the forever car. That's pretty much it on the engine. You know, do your research, figure out if you want to build it, if you want someone else to build it, and build it to your power level. It's pretty much as easy as that. If somewhere deep down, you guys are like, I want to build my own engine, but I don't know if I can, just send it. Literally send it. That's what I did on this, and like I said, it's an awesome feeling when this thing actually runs. Just take your time. It's the biggest thing. Taking your time, reading up on everything, especially clearances when you get to your rod bearing, your main bearing, all that kind of stuff. Piston ring end gap is super easy. When you buy your pistons, they come with the rings, and there's instructions in there telling you exactly what piston ring end gap to go for your desired boost level. So super easy on that. If you guys made it this far in the video, just know I recorded this all the way through, got up, went to check the camera, found out it wasn't recording. So yeah, cut off at the 30-minute mark because my camera stops recording at 30 minutes. So this is the second time I'm gonna explain the rest of this to you. So I'm not exactly sure where exactly I cut off. I think we were just getting done talking about engine. So biggest takeaways, take your time, do your research, take your time, do your research again, and just frickin' send it. Do it, run through your trial and error, work out all the bugs, and I promise you guys, if I can do it, you guys can do it, and you'll have a built motor. It's honestly not that hard if I'm being 100% honest. So at this point, once you've built the engine, you kind of know what you have to add to the car to make the power level that you want. Or at least I'd hope you've been thinking that through before you build the motor. I hope that kind of answers your questions on, you know, where to start, where to go with the power level you're looking for, how you're going to build the engine, some of the most common questions I get. So hopefully I can kind of address that. It's kind of weird when, you know, you're not asking me directly, I'm kind of talking to the camera, but anytime someone DMs me questions, I try to get back to them with the best possible answer I can. Or if you leave something in the comments, same deal. I'll do my research and try to get back to you with the best answer I can. Now going back to the beginning of the video where, you know, we're messing with the head gasket joke. Obviously the biggest thing that people say about these cars is head gaskets, rod knock, blow-ups, all that kind of stuff. I get the comment all the time. And I really just don't even respond anymore because you see it so much. It's a stereotype for these cars that they're notorious for having issues with. Honestly, I haven't replaced a single head gasket that was faulty out of one of these cars. I did have a rod knock. I think that was just time and also my fault. I did run the car low on low on oil, and I think that was probably a big cause. These are very temperamental when it comes to oil. So one thing I always say to Subaru guys, make sure you're always checking your oil. I check it every time I go out for a drive. Just to be safe, especially after that incident. So the last thing I want to do is realize that it's burning a lot or leaking some, and I go to start the car and I blow up a $20,000 engine, because that is not fun. Honestly, I think the reason most people have issues with head gaskets and rod knock is just the ignorance they have towards the cars. They'll slap a whole bunch of crap onto the car and think it just works. And it doesn't, and they're gonna blow a head gasket, and that's the name that comes out of it. Because maybe on a Civic or on an Evo, you can slap all this stuff on and not have an issue. But with these cars, you can't do that. Like, you have to brace it, you have to, you know what you're doing and properly install this stuff. A lot of people, like Rusty for example, that thing was cob jobbed together worse than any other car I've seen. I don't know how that thing even ran. It sat in the garage for 2 years. That's probably the only reason it ran, because it was literally sitting. But I think, yeah, it's just people not really understanding the engines and how these cars react to certain parts, and they're bringing on the issues themselves. Like I said, I never had a head gasket issue, and we push damn near 50 pounds of boost through this thing every day. Haven't even pushed a drop of coolant, so That's all I gotta say about that. I did post up a little question thing on Instagram for people to answer, and I can answer some of the questions on this video. So I'll go through a few of them. There's quite a few in here. What's the main concern on an EJ motor? Does building it actually make it reliable? I feel like we just kind of answered that. The main concern on an EJ motor, they're notorious for the head gaskets and rod knock, because people just aren't treating them right, like I said. But does building it actually make it reliable? Yes, especially for prime example right here. If I left that block stock trying to push 45 pounds of boost into it, it won't last long. So as much as it's not reliable, it's gonna handle it for a lot longer than a stock block would. So I guess, yeah. If you had to choose one thing to change about your STI, what would it be? It's kind of a tough one, but I honestly love this car from every angle. I think if there's one thing, it would be the stock color of the car. So it is a silver car underneath this wrap. Another question I get is, what color is the wrap? It's a KPMF gloss red black iridescent. It's not a paint. Yeah, if you've watched previous videos, you guys probably all know it's a wrap by now. Yeah, I think the stock color of the car, I'm not a big silver guy. I'd rather prefer like black, white, red, something like that. I don't know. The silver did look pretty good with all the carbon, but yeah, I'm just not a huge silver guy. When are we gonna get some merch? Another thing, got a lot of questions about. When it comes to merch, I want to, one, get a little bit bigger so I can have more of an influence and try to sell stuff. I don't want to, it's really hard at my level because I'm sure I'd sell a few, but I think it's hard to know how much I need to order, how much I'm going to need. And obviously, the less you order, the more expensive it is, so I'd have to charge more. Also, I don't have a brand name, don't really have a logo or anything like that. It's in the works, I've been thinking about it forever. I don't know. Hopefully soon, we'll figure something out. Maybe if we just do like a limited like Panzer release or something like that. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you guys would buy anything. Is Devin's channel your inspiration? Okay, so Devin, Tanner, Josh, Cletus McFarland, all those guys I've watched for a very, very long time. They are an inspiration for sure. Obviously, I did live in Spokane, so I knew Devin and Josh personally. A lot of you guys may think that, you know, I'm just trying to follow in their footsteps, whatever. Obviously, the goal for any small creator is to become bigger. Me, I bought the hatch because it was something that none of them had yet. I actually had this hatch before Devin had his hatch. So I'm like, I want to build a hatch. It's going to be different. It's kind of what I wanted to start the channel out with. And, you know, it kind of worked. But at the same time, now that we're starting to, you know, level up and try to gain an audience and, you know, like that car, I bought that solely to fix up and flip for a profit so we can keep leveling up. That's kind of the goal. YouTube doesn't pay me enough to just go out and buy a bunch of cars. And so, yeah, kind of, I might be trying to buy the same cars as they have because they have the cool cars, and I'm trying to, if it looks like I'm buying the same cars as they do to make the same content with, it's not that. It's just they're the fun cars, they're the cool cars, and they get views. So that's kind of what I'm after. And I obviously have a love and passion for working on them. So yeah, just trying to work my way up. Have your Subaru blew up yet? I like the Subi's hatch, but heard stories of engine blowing up. No, this thing hasn't blown up yet. It's, yeah, 100 plus poles, no issues. Yeah, obviously everyone hears stories of them blowing up because people can't handle it. Hold on. Yo, what did you just tell me you needed?
I'm not repeating out loud, but who are you with?
Just tell me what you said you needed.
Well, I'm not repeating it. Who are you with?
I'm not with anyone.
So I need a sugar daddy.
You need a sugar daddy, yeah? Alright guys, so All inquiries under the age of 50.
I'm accepting sugar daddy applications. Age limit 50. Hit me up, undergo.
Fuck.
Serious inquiry.
I just fell out the back of my chair trying to sit down. Alright, having a rough night tonight, guys, but let's get back on track. Oh, we were reading off questions, that's right. By the way, if you want to be Riz's sugar daddy, go ahead and hit her up. What's the next build? Well, Rusty is pending sold, so once that's gone, you guys are going to have to wait and see. That's all I'm going to say. Why buy another hatch STI instead of buying an older gen and changing it up? Okay, so I honestly didn't want to buy another hatch. That hatch came up on my marketplace. It was a really, really good deal, and I couldn't pass it up. Because I don't make a lot on YouTube right now, I have to take advantage of this kind of stuff because you can make pretty good money just from flipping the cars, and that's what I did. I bought that car solely to fix it up and sell it so I can continue to get better, level myself up, and get something nicer. I haven't really told anyone this, but this car will pay off the rest of my debt and be just living smooth. So this is going to be a huge stress relief once that's gone, and then work into another car, start the process over again. So super excited, but we'll see what happens. I think that's all the questions I'm going to go over for now. There's a freaking ton of them in here. I don't want this video to be too long. I know it's probably already really long, and some of you guys are probably bored out. So if you made it this far, appreciate you guys, and hopefully you learned something. If not, leave it in the comments and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video right here. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out. See y'all later.